We should be all set.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Oh, good. Time is 6:05 and 35 seconds, and I'd like to welcome everyone to the meeting of the 7-Eleven Committee. On October 15, 2024. And I'd like to start just by calling the roll and in alphabetical order. Guadalupe Lana is away due to family illness or a family emergency. Mr. Gosney.
Here.
Ms. Duray. Absent. Mr. Rentila.
Here.
Ms. Torres.
Here.
Ms. Sneegler. Absent. Okay, a quorum being present, we can continue with our meeting and conduct business. So let me go through the readings. Committee agendas are available for review at Facilities Operations Center, 1400 Marina Way South, Richmond, California, 94804, and online at http://www.wccusd.net. Documents that are public records will be made available for public inspection in the district office located at 1400 Marina Way South, Richmond, California, 94804, during regular business hours. In addition, such writings and documents may be posted on the district's website when the agenda is posted. There's the district committee's webpage. Everything that's been said before, /domain/1445, District 7-Eleven Committee webpage, https://www.ccusd.net/page/15/623. The meeting location is 1400 Marina Way South, Richmond. You can attend the meeting in person. The meetings are also broadcast via Zoom using the following link. By computer, click on the link below to join the webinar, https://wc.zoom.us/J/961146232120, or by telephone at 669-444-9171 for the webinar ID at 961-1462-3120. Participating in the committee meetings, the public will have different opportunities to address the committee. The public can address the committee during public comment and before an action or discussion item. The public can provide public comment in person through the Zoom app and by telephone. Public comment will last approximately 10 minutes. The time allotted for each speaker is 2 minutes. If you are attending the meeting in person, you need to submit a request to address the board form to indicate your desire to speak during public comment on a non-agenda item before the item begins on an agenda item. If participating via Zoom, you need to raise your hand by clicking on the appropriate icon in the Zoom app or by pressing *9 if accessing the meeting by phone. No yielding of time or substitution of speaker is permitted. The public will have an opportunity to make public comments on agenda items after the presentation for each discussion and an action item. The time allotted for a public comment on each action or discussion item and items not discussed on the agenda will be no more than 10 minutes and 2 minutes per speaker. Due to the Brown Act, committee members cannot discuss items not on the agenda and do not usually respond to items presented in public comment. Special accommodations upon the request to the district, disability-related modifications or accommodations, including auxiliary aids or services, will be provided. please contact the facilities office at 510-307-4545 at least 48 hours in advance of meetings. The order of business may be changed without notice. So let us look at the meeting agenda. Item A1, occurred, I believe I said at 6:05:35. And now I have to read the land acknowledgement. We recognize that we are presently on the lands of the Cochaño, Muwekma, Karkeen, Ohlone peoples, and acknowledge them as the first inhabitants of the land we currently occupy. The labor and body recognition. I acknowledge that the burden of environmental exploitation and systemic injustice falls on the labor of Black and brown bodies in the building of this country and its institutions. I remember that Black and brown people were born and died working this land against their will for generations. I also acknowledge the continued contribution of the labor of survivors over the centuries to today, of all immigrant labor, including voluntary, involuntary, trafficked, forced, and undocumented peoples in the building of what we refer to as the United States. The author of this is Dr. Rochelle Rogers Ard. And now we are at item A3, approval of the agenda. Would anyone please review the agenda and entertain a motion? Okay, fellow committee members, I can't make a motion. Someone else must do the job.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes under A4.
No, we're on A3.
Oh,
Approval agenda.
oh, I can't do that.
The approval of the agenda.
I have a problem with it. The
Okay.
agenda, with the missing item. I was gonna wait till the motion and second for discussion.
Well, I don't have a motion yet.
Well, my only concern, if I can, is that in the agenda, item. Hang on, scrolling. On item E1, we're supposed to approve the draft report, and we don't have the draft report.
Ms. Payne?
So I do apologize for it not making the packet. What I have tonight to present to the committee is there were very minor sections that at the conclusion of the meeting, I was asked to go in and add those items. So it was providing additional clarification on what the costs are for an unoccupied site. It was a small paragraph about additional considerations of the committee, and it was adding language to the description of the property for Adams where it said saloons, comma, etc. So while I didn't complete it in time to post with this because this meeting was called at the last minute, I do have the report that reflects all of the approval from the committee with those minor items to share tonight.
To understand, just for point of clarification, are the minor items present in the draft report?
That I was gonna show under E1. Yes, they're prepared. I just didn't have them in time to include in the packet. So I included the item in the agenda in hopes that the committee would give me the opportunity to present it and then vote to accept those changes or not during tonight's meeting.
Mr. Gosney?
My concern on this is that we, at the last meeting, we were still making changes to the report. Okay, so we haven't seen a printed version of that report with the additions that Melissa just mentioned. But even worse, the public has not had an opportunity to see that, to become interested in attending this meeting to address it if they so choose. And so, I mean, for us to approve a report that the public has not had an opportunity to see or to review or to comment on, that's where my concern is. That it would be inappropriate to do that.
Can I add a quick comment to that?
Do my best.
Totally agree with the concerns. What I would offer is that I made all of the committee's approved changes during the last session. And so we shared the screen and I made those changes. And so everyone was able to vote on them at that time. This is asking the committee to approve the draft report with the idea being that once the committee approves a draft report, then we have the ability to create a public notice calling for a public hearing. And so the public hearing would provide notice, the legal notice would provide notice of the public hearing. It would identify the location of the draft report. The draft report would be posted tomorrow on the district website. And then at that public hearing, which would be noticed in the paper in addition to additional outreach, that's the opportunity to really welcome the community to come to a meeting dedicated to looking at that draft report and bringing their comments and recommendations. After the public hearing, or at that same meeting, the committee has the option to then make changes to the draft report and would adopt a final report before it would go to the board. And so I do very much agree with the spirit of your concerns about ensuring that the draft report is available and that there is an opportunity for public comment and for this body to receive all of those public comments for that draft report before approving a final report. But those are the next couple of steps. And so I believe that opportunity still exists.
Mr. Gosden.
I have no doubt that what you've put together here is accurate, and that is not the concern that I have. It's just that I know that we're gonna have to have at least one more meeting to address the 7 sets of minutes that we have not yet had brought before us. So that perhaps at that meeting would be the appropriate time to address the printed version of this draft report that has been sent out to the public for their consideration. I mean, I think we all know that we're not gonna have people beating down our doors to comment on this, but we have to follow the rules and protocols about letting the public know they have an opportunity.
Okay, I think there's another issue on the radar, which is the composition of this committee may be changed by the election.
I understand.
So and we're still kind of dancing around the approval of the agenda. So, and I don't have a motion yet.
I make a motion to approve the meeting agenda as listed.
Is there a second? Motion fails. Let's give it a go for,
Could I offer
would you, go ahead.
an alternative motion?
Well, there's no motion on the floor because it failed, for lack of a second.
I would make
Go ahead.
I would make a motion that we approve the agenda with the exception of item E1. The draft report for the Facilities Committee Advisory.
Would you, for clarification purposes, is E1 on the agenda or off the agenda?
Off the agenda.
So, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, so it's been moved by Dawn and seconded by Art Nikila that the agenda be approved with the omission of item E1.
To clarify, there is impact to this. You're not gonna talk about it at all, then. Well, if you approve it now, you're not talking about it anymore.
I understand that.
I'm just making sure
And
everyone understands that. You
I'm,
can't even talk about the
well,
report.
now is the time to have some discussion.
Yeah, I was just bringing it up as a point of the impact of that motion. So if you don't want to talk about the report,
With
That's-
respect to what he just said, can I reword that, my motion?
You can amend your motion.
Okay, that I make a motion that we approve the agenda. That on item E1, that we have a discussion, but not approval of the draft report.
If I may again, you could approve the agenda and not approve the report later. Just approve the agenda so you can talk about it. If you decide you don't want to approve the report later, great, then don't, but the agenda is just to allow you to talk about it.
Yes, I don't even want the possibility of approving it. If all of a sudden people just say, well, let's go ahead and approve it anyway, the discussion only.
Okay. Would you consider redesignating E1 as D1? For discussion.
Yeah, typically D would be our discussion, and that's why it's not
Let's
listed.
take it off the action item.
As long as the word approve is no
We
longer
can't, we can't approve it if it's discussion. If it's a D item, it's not an action item.
Yeah, I understand, but even if we change it from E1 to D1, I don't want the word approve. Just replace the word approve with discuss. That makes sense?
Okay, so item E1 becomes item D1, and the word approve is deleted. And the word to be replaced by the word discuss.
I can live with that.
So, and do you agree?
Yes, yeah, that's a great,
So the motion is to approve, to modify the agenda, changing item E1 to D1, and removing the word approve, replacing with discuss the, so it reads item D1, discuss the draft report for Facilities Advisory 711 Committee to the Board of Education.
you would have to make that in the form of a motion, correct?
I did.
Could you repeat the motion?
You seconded it.
No, he changed the language of it after I seconded it.
Not a problem. My motion is to approve the amended agenda where item E1 is designated item D1 as a discussion item, and the word approve is replaced in item E1 is replaced with discuss the.
Very good.
I second that motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that the agenda be approved with the change that item E1 become redesignated item D1, and the word approved be deleted with, and replaced with the words discuss the. Without objection,
Works for me.
so moved. Okay.
I live in Richmond and we have city council meetings where they love to just throw things on the agenda and vote to approve them without giving the public a chance to receive it. Been burned too many times.
Okay. Approval of meeting minutes, item A4. So would everyone please refer to your packet? And I have, for each of these items. And this is actually an action item
Mhm.
because it says, take action on. So, well, anyway. I want to go back to, we'll start with March 5. And I just have a few Changes I would like to have on March 5. So if you look at everyone got, the minutes of March 5 in front of them in the packet? Yes. Okay, please turn to page 2.
Sorry, could you use the agenda page number?
I'm going to item A2.
Yes, but, I'm sorry, there is no page 2 to these minutes. It starts on, for the agenda packet, it starts page 3 of 39.
Oh, that packet, okay.
Want me to grab?
No, I have it. I printed, so I'm looking at page 4 of 39
All right, thank you.
in the agenda packet.
All right,
Item A2. I suggest that we remove the words tried to and simply add the suffix ed to the word explain. Ms. Dunning explained that there is nothing to say what rules the committee was required to follow, but it will be discussed later. It's just she explained something. Whether it was accepted by the listener is a different issue. On page 5 of 39, I have a question. Because of the use of the passive voice, it says it was explained. Who explained?
where are you at?
Yeah, which paragraph, sir?
Page 5 of 39.
Yes.
I'm looking at.
Directly above
I'm gonna
the,
count down, skip the 3 bullets, skip the next paragraph. And it
Oh, yeah.
starts, the paragraph starts, it was explained that any proceeds from the sale, and I would like to have an attribution of that statement to some authority. Does anyone recall who explained? I suspect it was Mr. Freeze. But so much time has passed. And this particular one, that the proceeds would be deposited in the facilities fund, is in conflict with page 6 of 39, top of the page, which states proceeds may be used in any way the board directs. So either there's a constraint or there's not a constraint.
sorry, on that particular one, without going back to the video that I don't have ready access to right now. I mean, actually I do, but,
Yeah.
what was presented at one point may have conflicted with what was presented at the other, but it still happened at the meeting.
Okay,
And I would need to just go back to the video,
um,
but I'm willing to do that.
okay. It just, the attribution for that, for one statement or the other, you know, there is no person named it.
Well, I saw the movie.
And so, anyway, okay, and moving on to page 6 of 39. Where we're at the second to last line from the bottom, it reads, Mr. Sanders was deemed the winner. And I would prefer that Mr. Sanders was elected committee chair. It's just,
Okay. That's fair.
and by the same token, with respect to on the next page, which is page 7 of 39, where it says he was deemed the victor. He was elected vice chair without objection, or he was elected committee vice chair, or without objection, he was elected committee vice chair. There was no, even though there's no opposition, it's still an election. And the same thing for, Mrs. Torres.
I will have no problem with going back there and making the amendments that you talked about.
Okay, thank you.
But I said, I do want to look at the video for those two.
Yeah,
items.
no, the attribution is, I think, when we are, after all, trying to make a recommendation about the disposition of these properties, which have real value.
Mhm.
So there are conflicting statements as to where the proceeds can go. And I'd like to, wherever those statements came from, some attribution.
I've got no problem with this. You just need to see what the video shows.
Okay. So, so we're at, the first of the series of minutes. And so once again, it's time to entertain a motion.
Well, if I'm going to go back,
And what, you want to postpone it until you go back?
I think we need to, because
Okay.
I don't want to see them rejected.
So, so we'll postpone, dealing with the minutes approving the minutes from March 5, pending the investigation of who made those statements.
Well, just pending amendments. Doesn't matter. You put
It's
whatever you
not a
want.
motion.
Sorry?
It's not a motion.
Oh.
Because we're not approving them.
Yeah.
So. On to the next meeting. Okay. So, turning page to page 8 of 39, the minutes of March 19. Oh, down I wrote a lot of stuff. The, under A2, the, you write, the approval, with no objections, the agenda was adopted and presented. But actually, there was a problem, and Mr. Rentila made a motion to approve the agenda, which was seconded, and I could not catch the identity of the second. It was a woman, but I couldn't catch the name or recognize the voice. Because you observed that there were no minutes from March 5 attached to the packet, and the very next item, which was A3, said approval of meeting minutes for March 5, 2024. So you rightly pointed out that they weren't there, so we couldn't approve them, so the agenda as written couldn't be adopted as it was written because there were no minutes.
You might recall, again, without going back to the video, Tammy kept insisting that you adopt the agenda, and then when you get to the minutes, that's when you object.
Okay.
But I will review it.
I thought I listened pretty carefully. So, Mr. Rentila's motion, which was approved, was to omit item A3, and that was passed without objection.
That, I have that in my minutes as well.
Again, I'll go back.
And that was on page 9 of 39 for the record.
Yes,
Which A?
A2.
So
A2.
okay,
So, yeah. With respect to the, 1, 2, 3, third paragraph under A4. there was a lot of discussion before the motion, then there was a motion, and then I remember I had Tammy at my side, prodding me to do one thing or another. And so I apologize. I think the word I used was adopted rather than approved, but I thought there was a second. I didn't hear a second. I don't know. I thought there was a second.
So you have a question about that?
I just,
Paragraph.
I can't, I listened carefully, I went over it a couple of times and I cannot resolve it. So, you know, it basically, you know, I said hearing no objections. The phrase used was hearing no objection because we were trying to do it without objection. Hearing no objection, the motion passed. But I cannot testify to anyone that there was a second. Because I couldn't hear it and I can't recall it. So anyway, so I'm kind of embarrassed by that, but anyway, so that's a personal note. Under the overview of the properties, Mr. Sheldon went into a pretty lengthy discussion of what they had handled and how many school districts and counties they had advised and their qualifications, and it's not there. Does anyone here think that's important besides me?
Well, I mean, I didn't think it was that important to the business that we were conducting. Otherwise I would have included it, but I mean, if this group says they want it in there, I'll put it in there.
Okay, well, I mean, because their practice is real estate, primarily advising school districts and counties in real estate, public agents, advising public agencies, school districts, cities and counties in real estate matters. And they've done work for almost 40 different districts throughout the state of California in terms of what they own and how they might position it. They also do leasing and reuse of a particular site. And I deleted some words from that. And their focus was to generate revenue. He said create money for districts because most districts are sorely in need of money. Their practice is primarily in the Bay Area with heavy emphasis on the South Bay and Los Angeles. And they want to make it clear that there are economic, physical, and political constraints. So the word is constraints, not restraints. They're not holding somebody down. Associated with the use of the site. So just some rewording, some qualification of who they are and what their authority is, because otherwise, it could be a local real estate firm. Nobody knows who they are, what they're about.
What does the rest of the committee want? Want me to add this or not? Just tell me.
Sure.
Sam, you have any thoughts?
No thoughts?
Yeah, then I'll just go ahead, I'll add it.
Okay, thank you. So now he went in alphabetical order, and the order of the properties is not alphabetical. It's parenthetically.
And
You knew a cut and paste and move it.
that affects us in what way? Is the information
Well,
different if it's
I'll
alphabetical?
get to the information, but, in order, the presentation of the meeting was in alphabetical order. That's a small point. With respect to, Adams, you wrote, relatively close to an active earthquake zone. And the, report was that Adams is within the Alquist Priolo zone. Um,
It also states it was relatively close.
Yeah, I got relatively close. But there was a map that was shown and the Alquist, the Priolo zone was shown. And he commented about the legislators who put their names on the map. So it would always be referred to in future times. You wrote that, zoning is controlled by Contra County's general plan. And he reported the current zoning as R6 or 6 units per acre. I think your observation about Contra Costa County's general plan came up in later meetings with Maureen Toms and other information he had. It was not, what was discussed in the meeting was, that the zoning is R6. It doesn't say R6.
Okay, then I'll remove that. I'll go back and check the video, but,
Okay,
I didn't memorize the video.
yeah, it's in Adams.
Yeah, I mean, that's, it, yeah, I have that in mind.
Okay.
I'm not saying didn't say R6, but I'm not saying that, because R6 means nothing to people. Whereas the
R6 or
county-
6 units per acre was what.
No. The two symbols, R6, means nothing to people if they don't know it's a part of the general plan.
Okay,
Then,
where the zoning is R6. There were various utility easements, and this was on their slide, wet and dry in portions of abandoned roads and other locations of the property. The CC&Rs limit certain uses such as saloons, etc., some of which are not enforceable, some of which are as part of the deed. And the building height restrictions on portions of the property and building setback restrictions are on portions of the property. So anyway, so there were things that were in the slides that were not here.
there's a lot of stuff on the slides that are not here.
Okay.
We don't
Well,
replace.
I saw the bullet points, so I thought you were just going down the slides. With respect, on the same page, going down to Porto School, there was a slide that showed, and this is material. I recall the 5.29 acres number, but the slide had 4.2521 acres as the area for this site. So somehow we lost an acre with respect to Portola between the slide and the notes. And
Give me 2 seconds, I want to pull up that page.
that is on page.
No, from the agenda packet where I got the 5.29.
Can we make edits later?
No, I'm sorry. He's one that's going line by line.
Can we make the edits later though? So can you note his comments and then we can review them later when they've been edited? We're barely on March 19th.
I do understand, but he's asked me to make an edit and I'm supposed to just blindly say yes without,
No, I'm making an
verifying whether it's
I'm making
an accurate number.
observation, Don.
I'm talking to her.
I'm asking that you could take a note about it and review it. We're not gonna approve these minutes, not without these edits, right? So can you just take a note that these are suggestions and you can make the requested changes or not, and then we'll review.
I'll
the
shut up.
minutes. We're just going so slowly through these meeting minutes, so
I'll just shut up and take notes.
Okay. Um. With respect to the existing garden in the northwest corner, there was a question raised. And the question was, what is the legal agreement with the district for the Contra Costa UC Master Gardener site in the northwest corner of the parcel? It just says existing garden. And on the map, it showed it, and the aerial shot, it showed it as the Contra Costa UC Master Gardener's Garden, or whatever. And turning to page 11 of 39.
Chair, can I ask
Sure.
a question? Is that what you want? You want existing garden replaced with UC Master Garden?
Well, yeah, it's, you know, the question was, there is an existing garden in the northwest corner. And the question was raised in the group, what's the legal agreement with the district for the Contra Costa UC Master Gardener's site in the northwest corner of the parcel? So,
Would it be helpful to read the sentence the way you think it should be read, for the guy that's doing the edits?
so there is an existing garden in the northwest corner, controlled by the Contra Costa UC Master Gardeners. Just to leave it at that.
I'm sorry, so the question that we discussed about whether the garden was authorized or not is no longer relevant?
I was just trying to respond to
Yeah.
Art's.
I know, but you
So then.
you said stop there, but that left out the.
So as a separate sentence, a question was raised regarding a legal agreement between the district and the UC, the Contra Costa UC Master Gardeners Program. So the question was raised is there a legal agreement between the Master Gardener Program and the district? Question mark. No problem with that.
It doesn't matter.
Um.
Eleven out of 39.
Yeah, we're on page 11 of 39.
Thank you.
And the presentation was that it's in a landslides zone, and the phrase used was high landslide risk areas. There is no note about the zoning. The zoning is PS or public service. There was a discussion about the general plan is institutional and utility. The zoning is PS or public service. Because zoning was cited in just about everybody else, but all the other parcels, but not this one. 20 minutes. So, and right now, under Harmon Knowles, you leave it unchanged except to add the bullet that it's the one buildable site where the state would approve construction of a school.
I'm sorry, what?
This is the one buildable site where the state would approve.
We want to add language.
Yes.
Yes, this is the one buildable site where the state would approve construction of a school. That was a statement, or was a statement made in the meeting. Um, dropping down in the title summary, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines. The CCNR restricts use to residential and business use if designated on city zoning maps. That was a statement in the meeting. And then in place of topography may impact use, the statement was building setback restricts portions of slope easement and a butter's rights. And, Art brought that up because we were talking about having access to the site from, was that Miller Drive?
Yes.
And under the CVU part, the 7.9 acres is split between the school site of 4.6 acres and the Garrity Creek site of 3.3 acres. And bordered by 2 railroad lines, schools no longer are permitted within 1,500 feet of a railroad line, except for private schools or charter school, except for private or charter schools. That was a statement made. So it isn't just that it's bordered by 2 railroad lines. It can't be within 1,500 feet of railroad lines. Unless it's a private or charter school. Public schools can't be. And the 1967 map shows subdivision, and just end the sentence with of the 4.6 acre parcel to distinguish it from the 7.9 acres. And there's also a mention of a high pressure gas line that impacts the site. The phrase, turn the page to page 12 of 39. And the entrance egress issues is correct. The phrase used was one way in and one way out. And you have issues due to road and 2 railroads. There's also a comment about 1 lane road, but just 1 way in or 1 way out. There's no escape, no easy escape. Under title summary, the CCNRs limit residential use to, and the word is detached, single-family residential units. On down the page, it's probably small potatoes, but I had explained when it comes to calendar for future committee dates, I had gone into some length to give the rationale for trying to get it settled by June 12th. June 12th isn't mentioned except in the second line. So my statement was that the goal is to structure our work in such a way as to complete everything by the June 12th meeting of the board, and the board would receive the report and take whatever action they're going to take. That was my goal. And it's not there. in the rest of the discussion. I stopped there, so I'll stop. So those are my observations with respect to those minutes.
Quick question. Since I'm managing the meeting, I need to take a really quick break. Could we recess
we
for
have a
5 minutes and
5-minute
come right back?
adjournment or reconvene. at
So
7.
sorry.
Yes.
Is that,
Oh, yeah, of course.
thank you. So the meeting will reconvene at 7
Reconvene
o'clock.
at 7:01,
And so I'm gonna go ahead
I have,
and put a pause.
6:56.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We'll come back in 5 minutes.
Given the discussion offline, about the depth and breadth of the discussion of past minutes of past meetings, I'd like to move on to, item D1, which is the discussion of the draft report.
We're not gonna review any of the other minutes?
No, I think you and I can sit down. I take council's words to heart. You and I can sit down and save other people their time and effort.
Because I mean, several of the sets of minutes, the only change since we approved them was to correct your name. You told me you did not want to be listed as Jim Sanders, said James Sanders. And so that's the only change to they've already been approved.
Don, you and I will sit down and iron out whatever it is and save everyone else sweat and tears. How's that?
You're the chair.
We moving on to public comment?
I would like to move on to public comment. Members of the public are invited to speak on any matter relating to the 7-Eleven committee at this time. Members of the public may speak on individual items of interest in the agenda as the items are discussed. I have no formal written request to address the committee. Is there any online participant raising a hand?
There are no hands raised at this time.
Okay, so, item C1 is over and, with no public comment. So we move on to D1, the redesignated, discussion of the draft report for the Facilities Advisory 7-Eleven Committee to the Board of Education. And if we could have the report brought up on the screen, I'd be most grateful.
Yes, just one moment, please. I want to make sure I'm still sharing my screen so everyone can see. So this is the draft report. And the items that have changes have been highlighted in yellow. So
So changes from what?
changes
Oh.
since the last committee's approved changes of the meeting. So these are just the items that at the last meeting, either it hasn't been updated or at the last meeting, there was a request from the committee that I provide a further description or something like that.
Okay.
So the first item that's in yellow remains in yellow, and that's because it's identifying the number of meetings. And so that is still to be known, and so that could be filled in at that time. The next item in yellow is within the description of the Adams Middle School property. And so this description here previously had saloons, comma, etc. And so what you see now is it says, conditions, covenants, and restrictions limiting liquor use, height restrictions on portions of the property, and setback restrictions on portions of the property. And so just provided better detail there and collapse that to represent the CCNRs for Adams.
Okay, any comments? Push on.
The next item in yellow was within the section, additional considerations guiding the 7-Eleven committee work. And so, what we have here, all information the 7-Eleven committee considered, including meeting agendas, meeting minutes, and the presentations and handouts, can be found on the district website here. And so providing a link to the website, which will have all of those documents on it. I know that we had talked about the website being one source of information, and this draft report also has appendices. And then The next item, method of public notification of 7-Eleven committee hearing will depend on, once the committee has a draft report and there's an agreed upon date and location, we'll be able to complete that section. Almost done. One of the other things, that we talked about was really identifying what the costs are for having unused school sites. And so we've provided a number of items here, the ones that we think are most significant. And that includes the non-use fees that are charged by the state, the insurance premiums, because, we're responsible for our property. And then one of the ones that definitely does come up, is vandalism and theft. In particular, at the Adams site where we do have the property. So we have had instances, recent instances of vandalism and theft, including piping and wiring seems to be some of the major components. And that can happen at unoccupied sites, which, you know, increases risk and cost to the district. And so, I hope that how, from a facility standpoint, those are the major costs. And so we really tried to summarize those as a follow-up to the conversation that we had at our last committee meeting.
And, in terms of dollars and cents, which I think was part of the issue in the question that was raised, that's a moving target, is that correct? Is there a range that could be indicated, or is it just too hard to pin down?
It would take,
Inordinate time?
significant resource that we just don't have available right now. And so part of the discussion at the last committee meeting was describing what those costs are. And that we experience, and we feel like these are definitely the three major drivers of that cost. Of course, there are other things that could happen, but we pay a non-use fee that's annual.
Okay.
We pay our insurance, and then vandalism and theft, that really just depends. And we thought it was important to clarify that when you have an unoccupied site, right, you don't have people that are at that site, right? And so in particular at Adams, where we do have property versus other sites where we don't have property, you know, we're responsible. And so there was recent vandalism and theft at Adams that caused the pipe, which caused water damage. And so we have to go up there and fix those things to prevent further damage. And so it really is a moving target. But these are the three biggest drivers of the costs in my experience.
I'm just
Art?
curious, what, I'm sorry, through the chair, I'm just curious, what prompted you to go through and make these changes, these edits?
So at the last committee meeting, we went through the draft report in great detail. And so as the committee was making recommendations, I was typing them into the report. But as we were going through it, there were a couple of areas where the committee asked that I further define something, or in particular in this section, we did start talking about putting a value of that cost. And I just talked about it's a complicated figure and would take some resource to provide that accurate information. And the compromise was to give a description of what those would be so that the readers of the report could understand those requirements. And so what I was bringing back to the committee tonight was really just the items in yellow, which in the example of the first one still can't be completed at this time, along with the notice of the public hearing, which I would be able to fill out once the committee acted, and then just share the changes that I made when we weren't together as a committee. And so I just wanted to highlight those as kind of my homework from the last meeting.
I see, I missed the last meeting, so thank you.
Absolutely. And I think that's actually it. Yeah, please.
Back, please. Yeah, the three bullet points that you've got listed there on the upper right. I recall us also discussing, I don't know quite know how to put it, but the damage, for instance, to Harmon Knolls, when you had a very large tree that fell. that didn't just get removed on its own. It had to cost a substantial amount of money, and that's the kind of thing, that, I think that may be the only site that we have left that has a tree. Has fewer trees now than it did before, but we had a discussion about that tree. And I'm just wondering if that's something we should have in there, some mention of that kind of a problem. I'm not quite sure. It was weather related probably. Or maybe it's just rotted away.
They fall in occupied sites too.
Sorry?
Sorry, they fall at occupied sites too. We've had that. Every storm, I figure how many calls am I gonna get in the morning that a tree fell? It went away.
Yes, but again, that's Adams doesn't have any trees hardly left anymore. Seaviews that barely has weeds. Portola has weeds, but no trees.
Harmon Knolls is an empty lot.
Well, yes, but it has trees.
Part of a park.
Well, but no, the tree that fell was in the school section. It fell, and again, it was a good sized tree.
So I've added a fourth bullet that I put maintaining the buildings and grounds, which I think captures the discussion.
Oh, probably.
You've got maintain as your introductory phrase, cost to maintain. So, I don't know, using, this-
Well, we could let her wordsmith it.
yeah,
Where you guys can get together.
thanks, Art.
Now I want to type name it. I'm gonna leave it alone, but buildings and
Cost to
grounds.
maintain buildings and grounds. Yeah, insurance.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Is that the end of the changes?
That's, I was just bringing forward the items that, I was providing the administrative support after the committee to fill in, that I believe I'm able to fill in at this time.
Okay,
And so that's the completion of the presentation.
any questions? All right, so we cannot approve this because we put it as a discussion item for no action. And we still have the minutes to, distill and attach.
Chair?
I would like to ask, what about the other minutes that haven't been?
I'd like to gather all of the minutes produced by anyone and reconcile them all.
That would be awesome.
So, Ms. Torres, if you could either print them out and I can just have a hard copy and go from there, or try to send them again. When I got the email, I had the image, I had an icon, but the icon didn't take me anywhere and didn't bring up a file. I couldn't read anything. So whatever occurred, the file didn't make it to the email.
Well, all right, well, we'll figure it out, but I didn't hear a response from you, so I could have resent it. Something, but it's been several emails that I've sent, so.
Send them again, or I'll give you my home address and try US mail, or just call me.
I could put it
I'll
in,
come by.
I'll put it in the drive,
I'll come by
and I'll
pick them up.
put the committee on there, so others can, I was told to send to you, and that you would review with staff, and then put it on the agenda, which is what I've been doing.
Oh, no. I kind of have the staff as a collection person, but fine. Either way. All right.
Could I?
Yes, Mr. Gosney?
Thank you. We have four meetings that we never had minutes from our earlier years. I would volunteer to draft minutes. Those were mostly presentations, so there should be minimal content to it, but I can draft minutes and provide them to you. To submit to the committee for review, because we have to submit minutes to them.
Yeah, so we're talking about July 22 through February 23.
Correct.
Okay.
Who was our secretary then?
We had none.
We had no officers.
It was on the agenda to elect them every time, but it didn't happen. We ran out of time at every meeting.
Wow, pretty busy.
It really was. I mean, it was actually, we don't have time for committee members to say
It
anything.
it seemed like it was always the last thing. And then we had no time.
Yes. Frustrating.
So,
There were no dead spots at those meetings. I
sure,
mean, it's just-
Don, if you've got the time.
Well, I'll make time.
Does you need to make a motion?
Is there, you can make it, you can do it.
It's his baby.
Well, I mean, I hate making a motion to have me do something at all. I make them,
I'll entertain a motion from anyone to, ask Mr. Gosney to review the recordings of the meetings of July 28, 2022, September 13, 2022, October 20, 2022, and February 28, 2023. And summarize those meetings in minutes.
without repeating what you just said, I will make that motion.
It doesn't really have to be a motion, gentlemen.
Right, is there a
It's
second?
simply direction.
All right.
It actually
Yeah,
really isn't on the agenda. is
Okay,
it?
it's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Without objection, Mr. Gosney? You have it. Motion passes.
Make sure that's not my car too. Sorry, I was at a lunch just recently and horn was going off and I went out there to see, just whose car, what is that? It was mine.
It's a blue BMW. Further down.
Further down. Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Welcome.
All right, so let's move on to item E2, this calendar for future meetings and dates. And, Melissa, this is your presentation, and if you would you also comment about the time frame that we need for public notices? So once again, people are put on notice as to how many days we need between meetings and notice.
Yes, absolutely. So, in order to publish a legal notice in the local paper, the day that you upload it by noon, it publishes 7 days later. So let's say, for example, that tomorrow on October 16th, we were to send to the paper the public notice, it would publish 1 week later on October 23rd. So once the public notice is available in the paper, the public hearing can take place it has to be at least 10 days before the public hearing is held. So if we were having it was in the paper on the 23rd, then we would look at 10 days later, and we would then be able to have the public hearing. So when you publish the notice, you have to identify the location, the time, and the place of the public hearing, as well as some information about what the public hearing is for and where the draft report would be located.
So what you just described, am I understanding correctly that essentially we're talking from the minute you hit send, we're talking 17 days before the meeting?
Minimum.
Minimum. That's okay. I
Minimum.
just want to make sure I understood.
Yeah, and it may actually be closer to 20 because it depends on weekends and it depends on when the committee wants to hold the public hearing. We have had some challenges finding a good date.
Sure.
Okay,
We
Question?
have go ahead.
I just wanted to ask, legal, from your perspective, what, is the district obliged to, do as far as notifying the public? What is the bare minimum and what is the district obliged to do legally?
Legally, not much. I suspect this committee will want to do more, just in the nature of the committee. We just have to hold a public hearing. So what Melissa is pointing out is that, advertising in the paper, that's kind of the minimum because people don't often read it. Obviously posting on the website. If there's other in these areas, my guess is I'm gonna forget the platform, is it, platform that each site has and they.
Like
notify
Parent Square for parents.
Thank, yeah, there, I thought there's something else,
Mhm.
anyway, I'm blanking on the name of the platform. Notifying at least those areas that,
Next door.
Next door. Yeah.
And do they have an obligation to notify in two different languages or just in English?
There isn't, but they can, the district can, certainly. There's not a statutory requirement to do that. But I think they would, I think you should in this district, yes. So I suspect whatever the committee decides to do is gonna be more than the statute requires. The statute doesn't require very much.
Don?
You know, going along with what we just learned, I know that hardly anybody in West Contra Costa County actually takes the West County Times, okay, for home delivery.
It's now called the East Bay Times. I was just part
I know exactly what it is. I work with them. I work for them. And so I guarantee you that it's almost non-existent. And even if they do take it, very few people go to that part of the paper where legal notifications are posted. It just doesn't happen. If we relied only on that, we're doing a disservice to our community. There are so many other options between just in Richmond, you've got 4 online newspapers, for instance. You've also got the 2 patch newspapers in West Contra Costa County. You've got quite a number of next doors. You've got Facebooks. But also it really concerns me that this district seems to think that the universe is made up only of the parents that attend our schools. And that eliminates about 200,000 people in West Contra Costa County that do not have kids going to our schools. But they get to pay their taxes. Well, not the little kids don't pay the taxes, but the rest of us get to pay their taxes on all to operate the school district. And so it's insulting to ignore them. We need to do a better job. And our communications department we keep bringing it up to them because most of them will attest to this. We keep having meetings with our board about communications. It's one of the 3 topics at the joint meetings, and nothing seems to get done as far as expanding the notifications out to our community about this. And this is too important to give it the short shrift like the district has been doing. I think that we need to insist on it, that we need to do what we can between posting all these things.
Right.
We as a committee,
If I
Yes.
may comment a little bit, because I know a little bit about the communications section. The instructions have to come down the chain of command for the district to the communications department. We can ask, we will ask staff, but we can't tell the communications department how to do their job. We can request.
Oh, we advise, yeah, we request, we can advise. I'm never suggesting we tell them. I understand chain of command because I've had to live that my entire life. But at the same time, there are things that we can do as individuals, not necessarily as a committee, but as individuals. We can, once we've got notifications, for instance, we know where the meeting is going to be held. We can share that on the social media. We can share it on Nextdoor and on the newspapers. I own one of those 4 newspapers in Richmond. I can certainly publicize it.
Okay.
One last
Arto's
question.
here. Arto's gonna say it.
Just one last question.
Art,
So from a staff perspective, what is your timeline from a staff perspective, knowing that we have an interim superintendent, knowing that the elections are November, we've got vacation or holidays? What is a realistic expectation from staff for us to get this to the board? Is it sometime in 2025, obviously?
Yeah, so let's just say, let's say that tonight the draft report was approved. The earliest the public hearing could be would be November 4th. And so we know that's not going to happen. And so, there's a lot of factors, I would say, that are a little bit outside of our control, but could have an impact on the committee. By statute, this committee needs 7 to 11 members. We do have a member, of this committee who is also, running for office. And so that is something that could have an effect on this committee. The timeframe, we know what our next steps are. So we know that this committee needs to approve a draft report, and that draft report then needs to be publicly noticed in various ways that meet the statutory, minimum requirements and greater than that. But then a lot of that direction is going to come from this group. So are we holding a public hearing? And then how quick, are we holding one public hearing? Are we holding more than one public hearing? After that public hearing, so probably, like, before I get ahead of myself, so after this meeting, we know at minimum, we need to have one more committee meeting for review and approval of the meeting minutes and the draft report. So maybe that's one more meeting. So if that was one more meeting, after that, then public hearing, singular or plural. Then after that, committee meeting to approve a final report. And then once this committee approves a final report, the next step after that is to then take it to the board. And I think that would be another important time to do outreach to the community so that they knew that the committee had a draft report, held the public hearing, considered what they heard at the public hearing to then adopt a final report, and making sure that people know when that final report's going to the board. So there are additional opportunities for public outreach and engagement with this critical report. So considering the fact that, as mentioned, we're entering the season, I'll be honest, we've been struggling to find a night that's available that isn't already the night of another district meeting or candidate forum, which is the reason why this meeting was a little bit challenging to call and called at the last minute, trying to find space on the community calendar. Post the election, some of those committee meetings and constraints maybe less, but there could be other constraints at that time. So it's really, really hard to predict, and will really depend on the committee in a lot of respects.
Yeah, we're entering the holiday season, so it's gonna be difficult.
Mr. Cosner?
And then we have the issue that was brought up before about one of our committee members that is on the ballot. And if she is elected on November 5th, I'm sorry, we won't know whether she's elected until 28 days after November 5th, when the election is certified. And my history, that's the business I'm in. I said, my history is things change a lot every time they come up with a new count. Now they do it only on Friday afternoon, but whatever you hear on November 5th is worthless. You have to wait until essentially the first week of December to decide or to know whether she is elected or not. And then, but our attorney was saying that his advice, but correct is that she really should not participate if she is elected between the time that she's certified and sworn in. Really should stay out. So, but we have to give the board proper time to find a replacement.
Yeah.
And that's not sure.
Appointed by the board, Ms. Torrance, go ahead.
So can we get clarification on this? This gray area, like, would really buy us a lot of time to conduct a lot of business? So can we get clarification on a hard date as to when, if she does become elected and now we're down to not enough members, we could get a lot done before that if date. But if we don't have a goal and a deadline, then we're just gonna keep dawdling with not approving minutes and asking for, discussion on things over. So can we get like an end date or something here? Because I'm telling y'all right now, I'm not coming back for a third round. I've been a part of this committee for 3 years almost, and I do not have time to do this again. It has been emotionally exhausting me and my family. The cost of participating in this is a lot. This is very important work, but I'm not gonna come back for a third round. So can we please just be done with this? So can we get a date? So we can know when we have to have everything wrapped up with a pretty little bow.
You, make sure I'm asking, what you're asking, Sandra, a date where we'll know if she can participate?
Because it sounds like,
I think she's asking, when are we gonna be done with our work as a committee?
well, no, I think that's up to us. What I'm saying is,
No.
if a member is elected, at what point exactly are they no longer eligible to be a part of this committee? Is it after election day? Is it upon certification of the election result? Is it upon swearing in? At what point is the conflict? Does the conflict mean she has to remove herself?
So the results are certified on December 3rd. That just throwing that date out there.
Mhm.
It may happen a day or two before, but a day or two before, the actual county offices are closed. I mean, it's Thanksgiving weekend. But December 3rd is 28 days after the election.
Just an aside before you comment. A friend of mine who is a former deputy attorney general was out with me one day and we were discussing law. And his comment to me was, it's all gray,
You must have been talking about conflict of interest.
everything. I was looking at it as a retired peace officer. He was looking at it as someone who wrote arguments and cases. And so all great. I'm not sure that we can come out with a date certain where the conflict is apparent.
Well, and I just think we may need to review some additional things in council here tonight, as council for facilities and not board governance. And so, I just, not to, you know.
I do know a lot about
you
conflict
could-
of interest though.
Absolutely, but I know, I was thinking about board policy and just some other things. So, I mean, I don't want to misspeak either, but I share that as some additional consideration.
Yeah, my answer to you, Sam, was gonna be, I can't give you a black and white date, so.
Ever or right now? No, I mean,
No, no, no,
I mean, there has
I
to
appreciate
be,
I appreciate your question.
Yeah.
Certainly right now, I can't give you one now.
okay.
And Melissa's correct. We would actually have to look to see if there's a board policy. There's a board bylaw that has the conflict of interest code for this particular district.
Hmm.
I don't know what it is, and I have a feeling I guess what's on it. But is she statutorily forbidden from doing it? We'd have to determine whether or not she would have an incompatible office. That's what we're looking at. So her membership on this committee, is that incompatible with her place on the board? Statutorily, ultimately it is. But Don's bringing up a good point. When is that moment get triggered? It's triggered when she is on the board. What we advise our clients, and I think I mentioned this earlier, if somebody is on a school board and then gets voted to the city council, the question is up to the board member to determine, but we usually recommend you can't come into closed session and have discussions. We ask them to voluntarily not do it as opposed to having to force them. This is not the same situation. You're not in closed session. These are open discussions. Is there a true conflict? Probably not with her place on the board. But when she gets on the board, she can't be on this committee because this is a committee of the board. It has to be members of the public that are on it, not committee board members.
I have a question for you, Don, but I'll
Go ahead.
you speak first.
I'm just looking at a calendar. I said, by law, the results have to be certified on Tuesday, the 3rd of December. Okay, it's unlikely that they would be swearing, I don't know the board's schedule right now. It's unlikely that they would be meeting on the 4th to swear in the new board members. So it would probably be either the 11th or the 18th of December that they would be sworn in. Okay, and the next Wednesday is Christmas. So I'm pretty sure they're not gonna meet that day. So between the date of knowing who is elected, you know, Guadalupe or O3, and then being sworn in, may only be 8 days or maybe as much as 15 days from the time that they know.
From what day?
Well, again, the county does not, the county elections will not, they don't certify until the 3rd of December, Tuesday, the 3rd of December. It may happen a day earlier, Monday. But then, again, the following Wednesday is the 4th. And then the 11th and then the 18th.
Okay, well, just kind of keeping the 3rd of December in mind
Okay,
and looking at every 2 weeks. 2 weeks from today is the 29th. 2 weeks from that is the 12th. And that's probably the end of our opportunities because the Thanksgiving week is going to come at the last week of November, I believe. So maybe we have, if we keep on this 2-week rhythm, we have at best 3 meetings and possibly no more than that. Yes. So if you and I can somehow iron everything out between now and the 29th of October, then we could possibly get through the approval process on that day and start doing the hearings in November.
that's 10 sets of minutes
I know,
to come up with, and then Sam's.
so we gather everything together, you and I sit down in one room and we start going over it bit by bit and try to distill it, refine it, reduce it as much as possible. And then, I heard commentary that we would, if the two of us settle our differences, the rest of the committee will cheer and vote in favor.
So I would share that on October 29th is a community budget forum.
So we need a
So I can say
Monday or a
that
Wednesday.
one committee member who's also on cabinet, as well as myself, won't be available that day for 7-Eleven. And if that were the meeting date, then the soonest that the public hearing could possibly be held would be the November 18th date. So keep in mind that if the committee was to hold one more meeting to approve all of the draft minutes and the draft report and approve the date, time, and location of the public hearing, it's probably about 20 days before that public hearing can take place, minimum requirements. And so it's already pushed us very close to the holiday break in November. So I just share that as a calculation for the committee.
Question, do we need to have a quorum at the public hearing?
Yeah, it's this committee's. hearing.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I do have some conflicts. I'm not available November 10th through the 19th. Potentially the 20th, but I will be very, very jet lagged. But if I need to be here, I will be.
How do Thursdays look to you guys?
No, I'm sorry,
No?
I should say it. I got union stuff, the 14th and the 21st
November,
of November.
okay? Wednesdays are board meeting nights.
For me, they are.
So what are Mondays like?
I have the RNCC.
And we'll have a CBOC meeting thrown in there sometime. We have no idea about dates anymore.
28th.
Yes, but in November.
28th works for me.
Well, the 28th is the CBOC meeting
Yeah.
and November 18th.
30th works for me.
Sorry, I'm looking at November.
Let me see if I can advance things. What does a week from tonight look like for you?
I'm working 16 hours a day right now, and
So,
trying to come up with 10 sets of minutes. It ain't gonna happen.
Perhaps you can send out a list of dates to the entire committee and see if you can get a consensus that way.
So I can definitely have Iris reach out and confirm availability. I think what's important is to know when will the committee be ready to have the next meeting, so we don't propose dates in advance of that. So what is a realistic time frame to have the meeting minutes and then the draft report so that we can post for the meeting 72 hours ahead?
What about Fridays? How does Fridays look for us?
That's a bad time to have a public meeting.
No, I'm not talking about public meeting. Talking about our
Sorry.
next meeting.
These are public
these
meetings.
are public meetings.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the public hearing.
No, not public hearing, I took public meeting. You
Uh-huh.
just don't do that. That's what you do when you're trying to hide things.
Well, we're
Because
not
you
trying
know,
to hide
you know the
things.
public,
We're
public's not
trying to
gonna-
hurry up before we lose our quorum. So that's not hiding. We're just trying to
We're
advance.
not losing the quorum, we're losing our legitimacy. Because we did the 6 of 11.
Mhm.
It's funny that we should be talking about that when we haven't been missing Liz Garay
No.
since her first meeting. I'm sorry, she's a member on paper.
Um,
Can we put a call out for more members?
yeah, but they have to be appointed by the board. So.
Oh, please, but I don't wanna come back.
You don't have to, you
Please.
don't have to, we get replacements for,
So,
So I think, so it's 7:45.
yeah,
I would recommend from an administrative place that, maybe you meet to talk about a realistic date within which we can start to find dates for a forum, and then I can have, one of our team members reach out and confirm availability. Maybe we can do a doodle poll.
when is this school board thing?
For which month?
October.
Wednesday.
The next meeting's on the 23rd.
But not on the 30th?
No. The, school board meetings are,
First and third.
we had one, on the 9th. The next one is on the 23rd. And then I believe it is November 6th. Just make sure that I'm right. November 6th and November 20th.
Yeah, first and third. Mr. Gosney, are you available on the 30th October? Yeah.
Wednesday.
I know.
That's 2 weeks.
Approximately.
I'm available to being able to get everything done. in 2 weeks is extremely
I
difficult.
promise to help you, I'll serve you dinner.
No, I mean,
Ooh, there you go.
because we're not talking about having everything done by the 30th, we're talking about having everything done by the 25th. So it can be in the agenda,
Yeah.
that's, 10 days from now.
Mhm.
It's just not likely. It's just trying to cram too much into too little time.
So can we prioritize maybe the 2024 meeting minutes and push down the older meeting minutes?
Mhm.
I mean, is that one idea that we could do to try to make the 25th deadline?
Well, I thought you didn't want to have another meeting. You were saying you didn't want to have another round.
I don't wanna have another round of this. I don't wanna have to go through
She doesn't
more
want-
appointments,
She
more.
doesn't wanna re-up.
Sorry, when you were.
Yeah, I don't wanna do a third round of this because we can't meet and because we can't. I just want us to get our business done because it's been 3 years and we were supposed to be done in 6 months when I signed up for this. So I wanna be done. I wanna finish our work.
I
So,
understand now.
so I'm asking, can we prioritize things and move forward with these little victories so we can get to the end goal?
All I can do is say, I'll do what I can.
That's all we can ask.
No, that's more than,
Okay.
no, you shut up.
Art, are you available on the 30th?
No. I am on West County Wastewater, Board of, Directors. We meet on Wednesday.
Ms. Payne, do you know if Summer Siegler is available on the 30th?
I do not see any district appointments on the big events calendar for October 30th. I am not available on October 30th, but someone can attend the meeting in my place to provide the administrative support. So don't let that be the reason that I'm only here.
Ms. Torres, are you available on the
I
30th?
am available on the 30th.
All right, so, let us reconvene with substitute administrative support on October 30th. In the meantime, Mr. Gosney, I will make myself available to you for whatever support you need to refine the things, to distill it, to reduce it, to get the minutes done. Mr. Urquio.
I just have one question. Has anybody reached out to Liz Gray to see if she has any intent of returning or if she's okay or?
I don't know what the results of the telephone calls that we all get, have been.
What I can share is just that our team does reach out to all committee members for all meetings.
Didn't she say she was gonna be at the last meeting that we canceled?
I believe so. I have to.
I think she did, and that was like, wow. And then we cancel it.
Okay. All right, so, we have a tentative meeting of October 30th at 6 o'clock in the FOC.
And I can tell you that if anything changes with our board meeting, I'll be here.
Okay, thank you. So we'll make an effort. All we need is one more person. We'll see if perhaps Ms. Milano will join us. We just need one more. And we can get things approved and move on. And then we can move on to the publication part.
So what I would offer, I was doing a calculation. If the committee convenes and we publish the notice the following day with the committee's approval and designation of the necessary items, then we could hold the public hearing the week of November 18th. That is a busy week in that Monday is a CVOC, Tuesday is a budget committee, and Wednesday is a board meeting, but the week after is the holiday week. And so I'm just wondering if it would be a good idea to find a date for the public hearing Not trying to jinx it, but just if,
You just did.
you wanna move into December?
no, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying as people are starting to look at their holiday schedules and plans,
Right.
if there's the ability to have the public hearing the week of November 18th, probably better, because if not, it's December.
We have a meeting on the 30th. We are not gonna have all the minutes approved. We've already made that clear. We're gonna get as many as we can, but we're not gonna have the minutes. So how are you gonna send out a packet to the public that doesn't have all the minutes? I mean, we almost certainly have to have an additional meeting just to finalize the rest of the minutes.
And that's what I was kind of pushing for when I was chair, is like, let's get all the minutes so we can get those behind us and just continue to work at the business at hand.
I agree. I'm sorry. I was just trying to plan.
No, but
Nice try.
Well, I think we need to agree that we need to approve as many of the minutes as possible for the next meeting. Push through.
Can we adopt the draft report with minutes meeting from 2 years ago?
So can I restate the question that I hear so that I can clarify that we're asking the right one? I believe the question is, can this formation of the 7-Eleven committee as approved by the board adopt a draft report that just includes the meeting minutes of this formation of the 7-Eleven committee, that doesn't include the first 4 meetings that was the previously formed 7-Eleven? And for that, I'm gonna turn it over to trustee expert here, but is that the correct
I think
question?
that's the nature of the question.
Yeah, I think the world will not come off its axis if this committee issued a report that, and you probably comment on the district, that the committee does not have minutes for the meetings from 2022.
2022 and
Yeah.
2023.
Is it ideal? No. Could it be done? Yes, the committee could still, and we would explain it in the report that we simply don't have the minutes from 2022. And reflect what we do have.
The video.
We probably still have the video.
There's a video record.
Yeah.
So,
It's not the end of the world. Is it procedurally great? Yeah, I know, yeah,
Not exactly.
I'm sorry,
transparency, but-
I'll burn it down.
I'm trying to get your position on this one, Colin. When you're gonna burn it down, what does that mean?
Everything that this committee has done, if we try to send out a report that is missing key pieces of information. Now, the public has no idea what's in those missing minutes, but they will know that we are hiding the minutes from them.
Oh,
That's the message that we're sending out to this public, and I don't believe this school district can afford to destroy what little trust the community has left in this district and in this board. I think that's just a bad sign on there. And to say, well, you can watch 10 hours of video, that doesn't cut it either. Nobody will do that. That's trying to hide something. Well, I understand the problems we've got here,
yeah,
but
I know. Well,
and this is not the first time we brought up the minutes, missing minutes for that. We tried to resolve this and it has gone nowhere.
you and I will agree to disagree on that issue,
Well, you're gonna have to get together anyway.
but we have to get together, that's right.
Maybe with Sam, you never know.
So-
You can't find those minutes in
We
your
will.
computer.
So I will get minutes from you and we will move on. All right, so the next meeting will be October 30 at 6 o'clock, MOC. Come what may. We'll. take it
Someone
from
will
there.
be here to assist.
Okay, good. So the time is now, 4 minutes before 8. And, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
We do, I'm so sorry, I just noticed this. We did have President Smith-Folds share that the swearing in happens at the second board meeting in December,
Which is what day?
which is December 18th.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry,
So
didn't see it
December
sooner.
18th is a definite barrier. It's an end.
To some kind.
Yeah.
So it's,
Unless we
There's
get,
your black and white line.
Is it though?
Well, that is for sure.
Okay, so the swearing in is it, it's not the certification of the results.
No, I'm saying that for sure is a black line. Is there another black line earlier? Potentially. That's still the gray area that your chair was pointing out a few minutes ago. That absolutely is a black line.
In the hopes that she gets elected.
That's it. We're all making the assumption exactly that she is elected. If not, then
Then we can,
she's free to stay.
we can do this forever, guys.
Another 3 years.
okay. There was a motion. I didn't hear a second. All right,
Apparently you didn't. I made the motion.
Sam,
I second that motion.
without objection. Meeting is concluded. Thank you all very much for your effort.
All right, thank you.